Hey, what is up, mortals? It's me, Robert Ramirez, aka Rarzrevenge here, and welcome back to part 2 of What If Bakugo and Tokoyami Were Kidnapped. Just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Blue lights and shadows danced across the walls. The crackling flames were the only sound that the League could hear. But the restrained students can hear another sound. They could hear their pulses thumping in their ears. Bakugo and Tokoyami were very much between a rock and a hard place. If Dark Shadow attacked Dabi, Dabi would turn Bakugo into a cinder. But Tokoyami or Bakugo would definitely get hurt if Dark Shadow stood down completely. Then again, their pleasant conversation could turn for the worse very quickly. Magni and Twice picked up Shigaraki as he straightened the hand on his face. He stood next to Dabi to re-establish his grasp on the situation.
You two are lucky that my master is interested in recruiting one of you two. Otherwise, I would have no remorses in dusting the both of you here and now.
So there's someone higher in the chain of command? I should have guessed, considering how inexperienced and how little control you seem to have. Shigaraki took personal offense to that comment. He shoved past Dark Shadow and grabbed Tokoyami around the neck, tackling the tied-up student with enough force to knock him onto the floor. The villain had enough self-control to not wrap all of his fingers around the student, but he was running short on patience quickly. Dark Shadow was about to attack Shigaraki in kind, but stopped when Dabi cleared his throat. The scarred man had blue flames aimed at Bakugo, who looked resentful about how things were going.
You think I'm not in control?
Shigaraki tightened his grip around the Raven team. Tokoyami gasped for air, his lungs starting to burn.
I'm not the one tied down to a chair. I'm not the one who could be killed by a single touch.
Bakugo watched as the villain slammed his classmate's head repeatedly into the hardwood floor. Painful cracking noises resounded with each hit. A splotch of red formed at the point of impact as the damage to the wood became more visible.
You're at my mercy. I'm in complete control.
That's enough, Tamura. The shadowy bartender's voice resounded clearly throughout the room. Kuogori's essence moved towards his young ward. He landed next to his ear and spoke softly. You must clear yourself. Even if they won't join us, they will still be useful for the master. Besides, I believe I know how to convince them. After glaring at Tokoyami one more time, Shigaraki got off the young man. He begrudgingly sat the chair back upright before taking a seat at the bar. Tokoyami tried to shake the pain from his head, but it lingered. Dark Shadow looked at his wielder worriedly as the Raven teen squinted his eyes. The room's lights seemed to have become brighter to him.
Quit messing around. There's nothing you can do to make us join you. So go right ahead and do your worst.
He's right. It took a moment for Tokoyami to reorient himself and find his voice. You won't be able to break us easily. Kuogiri looked between the two boys. From what he had witnessed of behavior of the young heroes in training, he knew what could be done to persuade them. Kuogiri turned to Toga and gestured for her to move forward. The high school girl smiled and skipped toward the bar.
Are you gonna let me play with them, Kuogiri?
If you would be so kind, take care of Bakugo. Show him your playful side.
Yay!
Toga brought out a syringe that was attached to a glass flask. She approached Bakugo eagerly, the smile never leaving her face. Dabi took a few steps back out of Toga's way, moving closer to Tokoyami.
I'd hate to be in your shoes, Bakugo. Little Miss Crazy doesn't really hold back when it comes to her playtime.
Bakugo glared at the blonde girl, speechless for once while trying to size her up.
You're not as cute as Izuku, but I know how to make you cuter.
What the hell are you?
The needle plunged into Bakugo's thigh. He cried out while Toga giggled like a child. Tokoyami was completely horrified by the young woman's lack of empathy.
Suck, 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 suck.
Toga repeated the mantra as the flask filled with blood. The needle was removed from Bakugo's leg with little effort and practiced grace once the container was full.
500 milliliters should be enough for now.
The explosive boy did his best to try to keep a strong and angry facade, but he started feeling dizzy. A visible chill traveled up Bakugo's spine as Toga twisted grin reached from ear to ear.
Oh, I'm not done playing with you yet, Bakugo. I haven't shown you my favorite thing yet.
Toga pulled out a knife. Tokoyami didn't like where this was going. He tried to have Dark Shadow disarm the girl, but Dabi obstructed the attack. The scarred man grabbed Dark Shadow by the back of the neck. Cobalt flames encased the shade. Bakugo's pain noises mixed with Dark Shadow's cries of agony. Tokoyami's quirk retreated closer to him and became much smaller. Dabi forced Tokoyami to watch Bakugo being tortured. Toga decorated the young man with several lacerations that became more aggressive with each action. Toga quickly got bored with giving Bakugo little cuts. She drew back her knife, intending to stab Bakugo in his side.
Stop! You'll kill him!
Surprisingly, Kuwagiri stopped Toga. He made the warp gate in the way of the attack, but put the exit near Tokoyami's face. The Raven team flinched when the blade glazed his cheek.
There's an easier way to make her stop, Tokoyami.
After regaining his composure, Shigaraki stood from the bar stool and walked to the center of the room. These students were going to help him and the League whether they wanted to or not.
Just know that the longer you wait to answer...
Toga dragged her knife across Bakugo's arm, gaining an agonizing shriek from the blonde.
He'll bleed like a slaughtered pig, and it will be all your fault.
Tokoyami's eyes shifted to the side. Bakugo met the side glance and shook his head. He refused to be responsible for one of his classmates for changing sides, no matter his current condition.
Don't even consider it, bird brain. She isn't as tough as she...
Toga plunged the knife into Bakugo's leg. She only nicked the femoral artery, but that didn't stop the blood from gushing from the wound. Explosions popped within the bulky cuffs reflexively. Bakugo pulled against his chains, wanting to get away from the bloodlusting girl, but he couldn't break free. Dark Shadow grabbed Toga's arm before she could stab Bakugo again. No further actions were taken to harm the girl, but the Shade's eyes did flash red.
Enough.
Desperation and angst dripped from Tokoyami's voice before turning his crimson gaze onto Shigaraki.
As long as you swear upon your life and soul that you will not harm my classmate any further.
He had to force the knot in his throat down before continuing his statement.
I'll join.
Someone raps on the bar door, debasing the tension in the room.
Hello, pizza delivery.
Everyone fell quiet. No one wanted to claim the pizza that was waiting on the other side of the door.
Detroit, smash!
Instead, there were several deep dish fists of justice from the symbol of peace. All Might smashed through the wall of the hideout, scattering bricks and wood across the space. Dark Shadow did his best to shield Tokoyami and Bakugo from the scattering debris. It only took a few short seconds for the heroes to apprehend the villains, making sure to knock out Kuwagiri and Dabi. All Might moved his students once all the villains were wrapped up, breaking them free from their restraints.
Bakugo, Tokoyami, are you two all right?
Neither of the teens answered right away. Tokoyami was more concerned about getting Bakugo to his feet and supporting him. A majority of the blonde's wounds were surface abrasions, blood merely dripping from them. But the stab to his leg and arm weren't so kind. Crimson fluid formed rivers that traveled down his limb and stained the hard wood. He was much paler than he was a few hours ago.
Bakugo needs medical attention.
Tokoyami was melancholy as he made his classmate the priority of the situation. Now having his arms free from the cuffs, Bakugo used small explosions to cauterize the wound on his leg. After gritting his teeth through the pain, Bakugo's biting glare was aimed at Tokoyami and All Might.
I'm fine. I can stand my own.
Bakugo removed Tokoyami from him, trying to hide his fatigue.
These assholes tried to make us join their league. When that didn't work, the blonde girl started to torture me as a kind of blackmail to persuade Tokoyami. He was about to cave in when you showed up.
Tokoyami clenched his teeth to avoid All Might's eyes. The number one hero ignored the grim state of the Raven teen and embraced his students.
Don't worry. I'll do everything in my power so they won't hurt either of you again.
Silence echoed around the room for a while. It was surprisingly calm, even with Shigaraki's temper tantrum.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
Several gray fluid masses appeared, acting as a passageway for the dozen or so Nomu creatures who marched through. The heroes quickly became overwhelmed and confused, thinking that they have already prevented Kuwagiri from summoning any backup. But this wasn't the wispy butler's doing. Someone else orchestrated this attack. Tokoyami and Bakugo began to cough and retch at the same gray substance that was starting to consume the villains. All Might tried to grab hold of his students, but they slipped through his fingers. The two students and the villains fell out of the cold, damp void and landed on the concrete. Those who were conscious stood from where they were dropped and took in their surroundings. Devastated buildings were collapsed in heaps, resembling the epicenter of an explosion or massive fight.
Forgive me for the rough exit.
A commanding, bassy voice echoed throughout the seemingly empty landscape.
The new warp quirk I acquired needs some more fine-tuning.
Footsteps crunched against the rubble. The man that strolled out of the shadows was dressed in a tailored suit and wore a strange helmet-like device on his head. He looked to be in his late 40s, mid-50s at most, but he had a gait of something much older. Bakugo glared at All For One, seeing him as an enemy, possibly the master that Shigaraki had mentioned earlier. He got into a defense stance while shuffling a few steps back. Bakugo felt his legs start to quiver, unsure if it was from blood loss or fear. When Tokoyami got a look at the godfather-like figure, a chill shot through his spine and his stomach contorted into knots. Something about this man disturbed the Raven team to its core. The presence of All For One felt empty, cold, and dark. Something older than any person that the students knew. Although the man had no visible eyes, Tokoyami felt as though what was looking through him was time-worn and heinous.
Bakugo, we should get away from this place.
No.
I know, but
Bakugo couldn't finish the sentence. His mind felt foggy and his legs wouldn't move. Tokoyami could tell that neither of them would last long in a fight against the League and All For One, even if they weren't injured. The Raven team grabbed Bakugo's arm and tried to run, but noticed the others that were with him. Those of the League that were battle-ready moved closer to the students. Tokoyami scanned over the 6 villains while Bakugo remained petrified, eyes locked on the face of the symbol of evil.
Tomorrow, recapture these 2. I will secure your escape route.
Black and red tendrils emerged from All For One's fingers and stabbed into Cool Gary's body. He forced the unconscious man's quirk to activate, opening a familiar purple and black warp gate. Seeing this caused fear to spike within the UA students and a couple of the villains. One for All crossed his hands behind his back and floated several feet into the air. The first of the League to move into action was Spinner and his blade. The hero killer's disciple aimed his attack at the more human-looking student. Without uttering a word, Tokoyami pulled Bakugo out of danger and forced his classmate to stand behind him. Neither of them were in any condition to fight, but they weren't being given much of a choice.
Focus, Bakugo, or we will die for sure.
After hearing his classmate's voice, Bakugo cleared his mind and got into a fighting stance.
I know! I'm working on it.
Magni and Spinner, followed by Shigaraki, rushed straight at Tokoyami. Dark Shadow burst forth to meet the villains, appearing much larger and more dangerous than earlier. The Scaly Man and Trans Woman avoided the Shade's swiping claw attacks, but Magni was seized within the Shadow's beak. Dark Shadow shook the villain around like a chew toy while attacking Shigaraki and Spinner. Amidst the chaos, the other half of the villain team flanked Tokoyami to get to Bakugo. Twice whipped his razor-sharp measuring tape at the explosive boy's feet. Bakugo moved just in time, avoiding Toga's knife attack. Mr. Compressed twice and Toga kept putting distance between the UA students. Dark Shadow continued his assault on one half of the villain team as he bit down harder on Magni. She cried in pain as her weapon broke in half and her body started to become crushed. Panic washed over Tokoyami.
Don't kill her, Dark Shadow. Drop her now.
Dark Shadow threw Magni away. The villain was slammed into a building before crashing to the ground, completely rendered unconscious. The ground shook with each of Dark Shadow's attacks. Spinner focused on attacking the Shadow while Shigaraki made a beeline for Tokoyami. The Raven team's focus was on controlling his quirk, yet scattered, so he only just avoided being grabbed. Bakugo was only able just to juggle the 3 opponents with his explosions. He was making sure to keep the likes of Toga and Twice at arm's length and double down his attention on Mr. Compress. He didn't want to give that magician a chance to use his compression quirk on him or Tokoyami. The explosive blonde blitzed at the yellow-clad villain. Mr. Compress was prepared for the frontal assault and he fell for the Fate attack. Bakugo quickly diverted his trajectory and blasted Mr. Compress in the back. He then thunderclap struck the villain's head before striking again at the back of the neck. Mr. Compress collapsed to the ground in a heap. As Bakugo prepared to attack Toga and Twice, he noticed that his lightheadedness had gotten worse and his hands felt cold.
Looks like I'm not the only one who's struggling with control.
Shigaraki's cackling became unnervingly annoying to the Raven team. Tokoyami was being forced to backfoot. His attention was split between taming Dark Shadow's temperament, defending against Shigaraki, and ignoring the stars that were dancing in his vision. The crusty villain grabbed for the student's head. Tokoyami clasped onto Shigaraki's wrist just as the chorus hands were on either side of his head.
Better keep that monster under wraps now. You wouldn't want to hurt your friend, would you? He might not survive such a lethality in his state.
Shigaraki's sadistic laughter reverberated throughout the area and in Tokoyami's head. He was sick and tired of this man's antics and this whole kidnapping scenario in general.
Shut up. Shut up!
Tokoyami kicked out Shigaraki's knee hard. The young villain hobbled backwards, writhing in pain. The shifting of debris beneath his feet caused Tokoyami to stumble back a few feet. He bumped into Bakugo, the blonde glancing over his shoulders to see his classmates. Both students felt fatigue and pain weighing on them.
I took out the magician guy. What about you? Dark Shadow took out Magni. I don't know how much longer I can keep him in check. Tokoyami, cut him loose!
The Raven team looked at Bakugo with great concern.
Given where we stand, it might be our only chance we've got of taking them out.
Bakugo's rapid breathing and shakiness of his arms and legs were clear to see. Tokoyami's own condition wasn't faring any better. The mental fog was persistent. The spot in his vision wouldn't leave, and the unpleasant feeling of nausea was starting to make itself known. They couldn't keep up fighting like this, but to allow Dark Shadow to run wild? Tokoyami clenched his fist, conflicted.
I can't. You could get hurt.
Bakugo growled under his breath. A few hundred feet in the air, All For One had been watching the combat, studying the young men. Even in their wounded states, he could see that both heroes in training had much potential and powerful quirks. He wouldn't mind adding Explosion and Dark Shadow to his stockpile of abilities.
California Smash!
All For One caught the number one's hero's fist. The torrent of wind gained the attention of everyone in the vicinity. The UA students were elated and relieved to see All Might arrive on the scene. Maybe now, the odds would be in their favor. Thank you all for indulging yourself in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes over the hard facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called WeRewolfSword Naruto What If? It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know that on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the productions of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description down below. If you perhaps are interested in what we do here on We the Celestials, then I would like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join the crew. You can find us on Discord, which you can locate in the description down below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be, whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits. All you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work that fulfills your interest. We're always looking for more members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a plus ultra day! Have a great day, guys. Thank you for watching.